Now it's red because it'll be the stop button. It's color-coded.
There you go.
Hello to all of our listeners out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 46 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, recorded on October 3rd, 2016. I'm not quite flying solo this evening, but I might be better off if I were. Joining me tonight, I have Brian Bolivar of Modern Rifleman Radio fame, who, despite talking about filling out an intro not 5 minutes ago, has yet to write anything in the show notes.
No. I'm sorry, but I've been on a hiatus from podcasting for quite a while and enjoying it. So, yeah, I'm not going to come in guns a-blazing. Not happening.
Well, I'm thoroughly disappointed to hear that. I'm also thoroughly disappointed with my lack of Modern Rifleman Radio in my podcast feed of late. I miss Ken.
Well, most people do. But hey, I'm here to ruin your show. I've chased away the entire panel. So that's awesome.
It certainly is an accomplishment. As always, I'm your host, Andrew. I'm a libertarian competitive shooter, a gear reviewer at everydaytactical.com, and a firearms instructor. This is the part I normally make Gavin read, where we'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback, or you can email the show at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Remember, if you go on the iTunes and leave us a 5-star review, you can suggest something for Gavin to drink for a show. Within reason, he'll do it. The show is also available on Stitcher as well as the iTunes. The second week...
But honestly, that whole thing is just Gavin can't think of what to drink and he's looking for free ideas.
Yeah, well, hey, it's worked out so far. He's had some good suggestions and some interesting, sort of unique drinking opportunities. And the one day I made my office smell like 16-year-old girl's lip polish because of the whole strawberry daiquiri incident. I got in so much trouble for that. It smelled so bad in here.
Yeah, well, you should be punished.
Well. Can't make Marty read this week, so I'm stuck doing more copy. Please visit facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast to give us a like. We'll let you know when the new episodes air and when we're live on YouTube, which is usually Monday night, a little bit after 9. Today, it's almost 9:15. For upcoming events, we have Ragnarok Tactical Carbine Operator Course at Guelph Rod and Gun Club on October 15th. There is one spot not spoken for at this time. So if you'd like to email me at andrew@ragnaroktactical.ca, I can totally hook you up with that last spot. We've also got a big announcement.
Did I catch you looking at me when you said that?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not looking at anything. I'm just reading the show notes.
Okay. All right, sure. Fine.
We also have a very big announcement this evening. I'm helping put on a charity shoot for the Latimer family. We mentioned on the show before that there's the GoFundMe at gofundme.com/help Latimer family for friends of the show that recently lost their mother in a battle with cancer. In cooperation with the International Liberty or Death podcast, we're going to be putting on a shoot also at Guelph Rod and Gun Club on November the 5th. All money that's raised will be going towards the Latimer family. Unfortunately, Sharon left some dependents, and we're trying to help them out so that they can get a good start in life. We're looking at a $40 match entry fee, and we're currently looking at 5 stages. It'll be a fairly basic level of competition. It's not going to be IPSC or service rifle or no holsters, no slings. But we're going to set up some steel targets. We're going to set up a precision match. So bring your, your air quotes sniper rifle. We'll probably set up 2 classes. There'll be like a rimfire pistol caliber, and then proper center fire. And we're currently looking at doing raffle tickets for $10 for prizes. We're soliciting prizes from some of our favorite gun stores. And anyone who opts to shoot the match wearing a plate carrier with the plates in it, this is key, will be eligible for an extra prize ticket.
Interesting.
Yeah, so bring out your plate carrier. It'll be fun.
I may do that.
more details to follow on regarding registration and how to send your money in. And for those people that can't make it and still want to enter the draw, they'll be able to purchase raffle tickets through sending us money via the internet, and we'll include them in the draw for prizes. Okay, so that's kind of somber and hard to transition out of, but what are we drinking? So, like we do every week, left to right on my screen. It's a short week this week. Brian, what are you drinking?
I'll be drinking the Moosehead.
Drinking the Moosehead, very nice. Would you like to tell us about the age or vintage of that Moosehead, where it can be found, or how much
I bought it. I bought it at the LCBO. I've been drinking it since I could drink. Or actually, technically, before I could drink. It's just, it's a taste of home from the Maritimes.
That's fair enough. So, occasionally, our panelists get into detail about their drinks. I'm drinking Hobgoblin from Witchwood Brewery this evening. And once that runs out, I'm switching over to their Imperial Red.
See.
It's British. I like
Sounds
it.
Nice.
I found a box from when we moved. It hasn't expired yet, so, good times.
But it's the best way to keep it from expiring is to convert it into bodily fluids.
Works for me. All right, Brian. So I guess the real reason why you're on the show tonight, aside from the witty bants, we did a CQB championship on the weekend.
So we shot the second half this weekend. Or actually, you and I didn't shoot the second half because we shot the first half last weekend.
The first half last weekend. So we had 75. We couldn't do them all on the one day, so we broke it out over the two. So this weekend, you were kind enough to assist us by being range staff and making sure nobody did anything unsafe with their firearms.
Yeah, that's part of the fun. Sure.
Is that a good?
And you did all that administrative stuff that you always do, and with which was really not fun. And we really appreciate you doing all that.
Aw, warms the cockles of the thing where my heart is. Whichever.
May as well warm it, because someday you might want to put your heart back in.
That's funny.
Maybe.
I did all the admin because I'm the Ontario Rifle Association CQB match administrator. I do administration. So I administered. But I also shot last weekend, which was good because I posted a really good score. And I didn't get rained on last weekend because we had the good weather.
Yes. So Andrew and I shot the same day, so we shot in the same conditions. So when Andrew outshot me, he did it honestly. I have no excuses. He just flat out kicked my butt. That's all.
All right. So for the listeners that have heard our shows before on how CQB works, I know it shot out a maximum score of 550 points. Brian, do you know how well you did?
According to the stats you sent out, I shot a paltry 429.
I don't know that I would call 429 paltry. Anything over 400 puts you into the top competitors.
Yeah, but based on how I've done in the past, it's a little paltry for me. I'm feeling paltry.
It is definitely lower than I was expecting to see you shoot. And it was significantly lower than the 474 that I posted.
Yes, which was excellent. In fact, the 474 beats my best score 2 years ago at the championship match by 1 point.
You know what? I think that's right. And I think that 474 is actually my highest score of all time in the 3 years, 4 years, I guess, that I've been shooting CQB.
Yeah, I'm guessing it is. Yeah. I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised to see you shoot that score, but pleasantly. It's all good.
Yeah. See what I was saying earlier about the underhanded part of the comments?
No, I'm serious. I've never seen you shoot that well. That's fantastic. You did great.
So this year, there's only one person that's actually shot better than that. I went back and looked at our stats year to date, and the best score that I could find was somebody that shot a 479, and he's a very competent shooter that regularly gets one of the top spots on match days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So I was quite happy that I was keeping up with that because I have been working my butt off to win at CQB this year.
Well, now I've seen some of your scores in some of your matches. There was one in particular that was notable for the opposite side of the score, but you had extenuating circumstances that day.
Yeah, getting arrested and not having a zeroed rifle or any of my own equipment will definitely mess with my scores. Fun fact,
Yeah,
though, because we did the stats for most improved, the way most improved
I
works is
saw that.
it's your second lowest score, so that you can't sandbag on purpose. The difference between your second lowest score and your highest score of the season. And even with my second lowest score, I'm still the second most improved shooter this year. And
Yes,
if you include the day that
that
I
is
had
really
nothing
impressive.
that worked, I am by far the most improved shooter. But that was definitely an unfair way of measuring, since I wasn't shooting a zeroed rifle or my own equipment or had a handgun or anything else.
Yeah, well. Anyway, I did make some underhanded compliments to you on Facebook because it's funnier that way. But congratulations, you did really, really well. And if someone's gonna win, it may as well be you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. You did not do too shabbily yourself, despite your paltry score. Honestly, anybody that shot in the 400s did well, especially the people that shot the second half the match 7B in the rain, because
Mm-hmm.
shooting in the rain, civilians tend to not shoot as well. Something about diminished spirit because they're wet.
Well, to be fair, it barely rained. There was hardly even a drizzle. It didn't
I
really
couldn't
rain
tell.
until we were done.
I had my
Yeah,
very Gucci rain kit on, and I stayed nice and dry and was quite happy about it.
yeah. I wasn't in Gucci rain kit and I was quite dry, so it was all good.
Yeah, yeah. What were you actually wearing at the CQB championship? What would you call that
Oh,
particular ensemble?
I was wearing my 511 kilt, one of my 511 kilts. It's all good. I didn't have to go modified prone, so I was,
And we're
I
all
was not
happy
gonna.
to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's a time and place for kilts, and laying where there's a good chance people are going to be checking out your nether regions. It's not good for anybody involved. Nobody needs that.
No, certainly not.
No,
So we also had catered barbecue for this one. How did you feel about this year's barbecue?
I enjoyed the barbecue very much. Yes, the meat was fantabulous. Even the salad was pretty decent. Buns were fine, but yeah, no, it was really, really good.
Yeah, I like that. That was catered by this little piggy went to market, and they cooked everything on site that morning from scratch. And I hung out with the caterers a bunch and pestered them about how they were barbecuing. Just getting the pro tips, you know.
That's smart. You may as well do that.
Well, since I was keeping track of that so we could all eat on time, I figured I may as well learn from the pros.
Yep,
Yep.
yep, you can do that.
So that was good. I'm glad
That's
everybody
a little
came.
different than that's a little different than getting sex ed from a prostitute, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I cannot comment on that at all.
Just saying, tips from the pros. It just came to mind.
Hey, what you do with your free time and money is your business and persons. There was something else I wanted to bring up with, there it is, sponsors. I couldn't find my sponsor list. Nope, I still can't find my sponsor list. I'll have to do it from memory. It'll have to do. So we gave away a pistol that we're still actually not clear on what that pistol is from MD Charlton.
Oh, it's always good to have a mystery pistol.
Yeah, it's a mystery pistol. So I'm looking forward to finding out what pistol they donated to us, because they couldn't actually give me the pistol because of the whole transferring of restricted firearms thing. So if somebody has a voucher for a pistol, I hope that they get a good pistol and enjoy themselves with it.
Yep.
Korth Group donated a Hornady Rapid Safe. Vortex donated a Strike Eagle scope with some accessories and a hat.
Yep.
Elwood Epps kicked in two $50 gift cards. Firearms Outlet Canada gave us a whole whack of $5 gift cards to give out, as well as many, many boxes of 9mm ammunition, which I think you ended up with some of.
I did, because even though I didn't win the big prize, I was at least part of the top 4-man team for the CQB championship this year. So that worked out well. I did get a coin. I didn't get a funky trophy, but I got a coin, so that was nice. That made me feel less bad.
I'm glad we could make you feel less bad. I will work on that for next year so we can increase the level of bad you feel.
Yes, well, Thank you. That's what I expect.
Steam Whistle Brewery also donated a case of beer and a whole box of Steam Whistle swag.
Yep. That's cool.
Oh, that was super cool. I don't think we've had anything like that before. NEA was kind enough to donate 2 of their 7-inch forends, as well as a mostly complete 5.56 upper. Just needs a bolt and a charging handle, and Bug Out's going to be off to the races with his new NEA upper. So hopefully his son picked a good prize for him, since Bug Out was busy attending a charity road hockey game and couldn't come to the barbecue.
Yep. I think we should step back just a little bit about the Steam Whistle. There was no actual alcohol on site. Basically, they gave a voucher for beer, so we didn't violate any significant range rules by having alcohol present. Just to make sure it's clear.
Yes, I suppose we should make that abundantly clear, since we can't have alcohol on a military range, and we were on a military range. There was no actual alcohol present, simply a voucher for alcohol.
That's right. There. We don't want anyone being misconstrued.
There. Get your lawyer on.
Exactly.
CDN Gunworks came out to represent Andrew from CDN Gunworks came out to represent CDN Gunworks, as well as a couple other companies that he's involved with. CDN Gunworks has donated a Cerakote job, so I hope somebody's going to get a pink AR next year, because I think that would be funny. They also had an S&J hardware donation for Paraz Designs minimalist plate carrier and a Spatha Tactical Gladius muzzle brake.
Yep.
And then we also had 2 boxes of assorted Christie cookie chocolate type snack products. I understand that you may have been involved in those.
I did claim one of those as my prize, and there was much rejoicing when I came home with that box. My daughters were very excited.
So I don't know what was actually in those box. I know that they got donated on it. I know the approximate dollar value, but they were sufficiently delicious.
They were jam-packed with chocolate bars and cookies and wine gums and animal crackers and all kinds of Christie good products. Good tasting, maybe not necessarily the healthiest thing to eat. It definitely wasn't a single-serving box. So
no, those were like hefty boxes.
I will. We're set for Halloween this year. There's enough in there that we can just give that away for Halloween treats, and we're good to go. So
that's awesome. And then we had our trophies for everybody that was a first in their particular class trophy, and then second and third place got their plaques this year. So we had new plaques made up to hand out.
And honestly, regardless of you winning one and me not, nice trophies. Good choice.
I picked those out myself.
They were pretty sweet.
I mean, I may have been jumping the gun a little bit in July when I had mine engraved with my name, but
Well, you know what? That's risky. That's brave, because that would have been really embarrassing if you had not won.
Yeah, but if you had won, how much would you have loved to see my name on your wall of trophies?
I got to tell you, if I had won the trophy with your name on it, you would never forget it. I would make sure you never forgot it as long as you lived.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm happy with how those trophies turned out, and the plaques for that matter. All the prizes this year were good. I can't believe how much we got from the various distributors and gun stores and non-gun related places that just were like, yeah, we'd love to have a box of stuff or a case of beer or a plate carrier. Like, I can't believe how big the prize table was this year, because it seems like any other shooting match you go to, typically there is no prize table. And now this year, with the Meaford long range match having like serious high dollar rifles to give away, and then a couple of $1,000s worth of stuff on the CQB prize table this year, like, shooting sports in Canada might actually start to take off.
Yep. For better or for worse, there is a certain element that is drawn to the idea of prizing. And I do like the idea that the way that CQB does it is it's a draw. So it's not the the winners of the match aren't walking away with the cool prizes. Everyone's got an equal shot.
Yeah, the draw method is definitely preferable, I think, because there's like going to the Meaford long range precision match this year. There's no way I'm walking away with a K-Dex rifle. As a novice shooter with the gear that I have and the complete lack of experience, I'm not at all surprised that the pro shooters from the US are winning the high dollar prizes. Also, tens of thousands of dollars invested to get to where they are. So I'm not really heartbroken about it.
And you can look at it from the standpoint of those people are very experienced and they have very good equipment already. So winning more really good equipment is a bit of an embarrassment of riches.
Oh, definitely is. And I mean, there was, not to dwell on the Meaford thing, but there was definitely some very some unusual level of camaraderie from what I would see with other sporting events where there were some high dollar items that were gifted to other shooters at that event.
Yes. Which fantastic. That's just awesome.
Gun people are simultaneously the best and worst people you could ever meet.
That is probably the truest statement I've heard you say.
Oh, I guess I'm going to have to drink more. I get truthier.
Oh, well. No, don't do that.
All right. Have you got anything else?
You're just going to get more Andrew if you drink more.
I am as Andrew as I can get. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the championship?
No, I don't think so. Because anything else that I have to say would just seem petty and vindictive. So I'll just leave that go.
Well, I'm glad you know where to draw the line.
Yeah.
We'll go into the news. This is where I insert the exciting sound effect in the post show.
Oh yeah, I've heard that post show effect. Sounds cool.
But first, I'm trying to find the thing to see if we have live commentary on the YouTube before I do that. Don't worry, I'll fix this in post for our 5 YouTube watchers. Sorry, guys, I'm coming. I promise. Yeah, I'll let the show. Are you gonna? Okay. So I'm supposed to ask you.
No.
Yeah, am I gonna hang up on you? Are you sure?
I'm not sure if you're not. I mean, whatever.
I
tell you, if you hang up on me, I got other shit to do, so I'll be out of here.
That's fair. Do you get hung up on frequently? Is that a common occurrence?
With certain people, yes. There's a bit of an ongoing joke with certain people, and then there's other people who don't know how to do it right. So it is what it is. There's a certain style involved in a good hang-up.
Okay. And do you have an ETA on when another episode of Modern Rifleman Radio will be released?
I've heard a rumor that we might record something in the month of October.
Good. So only like another 27 days to find out if that's true or not.
I didn't say what year. I said in the month of October.
Ooh. All right. We'll go to our first news story. This one comes to us from... Who are these guys? Talk News 650. So this is in regards to Saskatchewan RCMP asking rural residents to put away their guns and let police handle crime. So I'm relying on you to be familiar with the format of the show, Brian. What do you think about this?
Well, boy, I tell you, I'm not surprised by the statement from the RCMP. It's typical police, particularly RCMP, type statement to make, because we do live in Canada where the government is supposed to look after us at all times, and we should never take any efforts or measures to actually protect ourselves or our possessions. However, telling a farmer to not protect their life and property and proceeds of their hard work, well, that's just a little bit stupid. Because you have to be kind of ornery to be a farmer in the first place.
A little bit. This bothers me immensely. That I understand that what's this guy? He's a superintendent. I think that the RCMP person, I think he's a superintendent, is saying that we don't want to have the Wild West and you have to let the police do their jobs. And that's fine. I don't discount that. But unless the police are going to ride around on the combines with the farmers, they're not going to be there when you need them because it's rural freaking Saskatchewan.
Well, exactly.
So,
and a farmer having a firearm in their truck, on their tractor, on their combine is in no way preventing the police from doing their job.
no, it's not. I don't see this as being an issue. The way that they're spinning this is that the farmers in Saskatchewan are preparing themselves for some sort of an altercation. And I don't think that's true. I mean, at the very least, the vast majority of issues on a farm that require a firearm are going to be animals of the four-legged variety, which the firearm is the appropriate way to deal with. Like the absolute best option for dealing with something stealing your livestock or eating your whatever your crops are you're growing, dispatching them with a firearm tends to be a pretty solid decision.
Yeah, they tend to. You'll find that marauding predators tend to stop doing that when they're dead.
So I don't see that it's significantly different for the two-legged variety of predator. I don't think that we should necessarily be going around just shooting people all willy-nilly like.
No,
but
no. And I don't think there's anything that indicated that the farmers were going to be forming a posse and going out hunting people, because it's fall in farming. They're busy harvesting. They don't have time to go hunt for guys in balaclavas with handguns. They just don't want to be robbed and otherwise attacked while they're doing their job.
And I think that's an entirely reasonable position for any Canadian to have, whether they operate a farm or not. You shouldn't have to worry about people coming to steal your stuff or kill your family or any of that other nonsense. You should be able to go about your business.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to doing that, I don't have time for the police. Like, I don't have the time to wait for the police to show up to deal with that.
No.
Because go ahead.
The incident that precipitated this whole thing was, as I understand it, there was a farmhand driving along a rural road, and 3 thugs in masks with handguns brandished were approaching him. That farmhand didn't just cower and run away. He took decisive action with a weapon. He floored his truck and got the heck out of there. He didn't try to hurt or harm those perpetrators. He just took a decisive action with the tools he had available to him to get out of the situation to protect himself. And I think a farmer in a combine can't really do that. A farmer in a tractor can't really do that.
Combines don't go so fast.
No. They have the big spinning wheel of death in front, but you can kind of get around that pretty quick, I think. Yeah,
they're not exactly the fastest piece of machinery ever made. I do like where the discussion is, like the comments on the article is going, because there is a lot of angry people that are basically saying the police can't be everywhere to protect everyone all the time. Like, it seems like, and maybe this is a bunch of people off of CGN that have shown up to, post here and stir the pot, but it seems like public sentiment is these farmers should be allowed to have their firearms and defend their lives.
Yes, well, I also don't see very many farmers doing anything different because the RCMP superintendent said anything one way or the other.
Yeah, I don't imagine a lot of them are going to be changing their ways just because somebody in a funny outfit tells them to.
No, that's right. So,
all right, let's. This has been in a bunch of different news outlets. I'm looking at an article from the Dodo, because that's the love of animals. Montreal delivered a death sentence to thousands of dogs. So last week, the city of Montreal passed a bylaw banning something, a loose conglomeration of dogs that they deem to be pit bulls.
Yep.
So Montreal is not the first city to do this, but Denis Coderre says that he has a responsibility as the mayor of Montreal to protect its citizens. So I'd like to know where all of their police are, just as a sort of an aside. But outright banning of another breed of dogs in one city in Canada. I don't see how this is going to make any difference. Because it's not the breed. We know that. They've banned other dogs in the past, and it doesn't change how many people get bitten or not. They really need to start banning owners that don't behave or train their dogs appropriately.
Well, the same ban happened Ontario-wide in the early 2000s, I would say.
Yeah, it's probably coming up on 10 years now.
Yeah, and there was weekly an article about a quote-unquote pit bull attacking somebody, or there's some incident with a pit bull. And as soon as the ban was passed, there was no more stories about pit bulls attacking everybody, even though it's not like there was a magic death ray from Queen's Park that eradicated all pit bulls. So that to me was a prime example of the left-leaning media promoting the government of the day's topic du jour, and probably the same thing has happened in Montreal, I'm guessing.
I agree. This is the status going, we have to do something. And I don't think that banning pit bulls is going to be the something that stops dogs from getting bitten. I'm looking at one of our dogs right now that's been mistaken for a pit bull on more than one occasion, and the dog's a jerk, but it's not going to bite anybody because it's been trained not to bite people, because we're not bad dog owners. We're not especially good dog owners. Our dogs are jerks, but
well, they reflect their owner. That's all I can say.
Or do I reflect my dogs? I'm just saying, all my dogs are jerks. It might be their fault that I'm like the way I am.
Well, and you're fairly hairy faced, so yeah, you do sort of reflect your dog in that respect.
Okay. I'm going to leave the Miriam Musif stuff for when Gavin is on, because Gavin has a special brand of hate for this woman.
Yeah. So okay. I have a take on things that actually the one thing I will say, the government has said that they have a target quota for to be kicking improper immigrants out of the country. I don't think there should be a quota for that sort of thing. I think there should be a need, and if people need to be kicked out, they need to be kicked out. But if you establish a quota, it starts to lead to people to looking to find someone to fill the quota. It's kind of like traffic tickets,
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like very like Prime Minister Shiny Pony.
Well, okay.
I don't get it.
I'll get into this a bunch with Gavin, because Gavin has a special place in his.
Sorry, Gavin, I'm making him talk about it.
For Miriam Musif. Oh, he really dislikes her, and I think it's funny. But the Liberal government was very against, because this is the result of a conservative policy that was made in 2015, where they made it easier to strip citizenship of certain Canadians. And It was not a very well-written law to begin with. And the Liberals raged about it in Parliament for weeks and weeks. And now that the Liberals are in power, the Liberals have instituted a quota using the law that they complained about in Parliament for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Well, Justin is nothing if not a hypocrite.
Yeah, I think you could say that about the vast majority of Liberals, which we'll get to later in the show. I have a whole thing on that.
There you go.
But yeah, we'll talk about Mary Musif.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that in 2015, because the spin that the Conservatives are putting on it is that if you were convicted of terrorism, you should get kicked out of the country. And the then simply the Liberal leader, Justin Trudeau, was all against that. No, you can't do that. Once someone's a Canadian citizen, they're a Canadian citizen, period. You can't strip people of their citizenship. But now there's this 180-degree thing.
Well, I have disagreed with this policy from the beginning. The policy that the Conservatives wrote was stupid and poorly written, and the way that it's being implemented, I don't think is within the spirit of the original law, but is within the letter of the law, because we shouldn't be randomly deporting people or stripping them of their citizenship or kicking them out of the country. I mean, I'm all for not having terrorists live within my borders. I think that is a solid life choice as, someone that
Mhm.
is pro-nationalist in this country. Because I don't want people that want to kill me to be my neighbor, because that doesn't seem like I would get to be on that street for very long.
Yeah, fair enough.
But also, the lack of due process is a significant flaw with this. There's also a lot of implications around dual citizenship. Um, so the way the law was written was if you had dual citizenship, the government could arbitrarily revoke your Canadian citizenship using this law,
Mm-hmm.
just by virtue of the fact that you were also the citizen of another country.
Yeah.
It was a poorly written law to begin with. It was like ripe for slippery slope type incidents, and now you get into things like this where this woman was told she was born somewhere, and her parents filled out the paperwork to say she was from, in this case, Afghanistan, and then years after the fact, her parents go, "Oh, by the way, we're actually Iranian." So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you punish the children for the sins of their parents? At the same time, their parents broke a law, so how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, you know what? And I think in the case of something like this, somebody should be able to say, okay, look, I want to become. There was some hanky business. My parents lied about whatever, but I'm actually a good person. I've actually been elected to Parliament. How about I apply for citizenship and pass all the tests and take the oath and do all that stuff and actually become a productive immigrant member of society?
I'm okay with all of that, except for the fact that you were implying that Marion Monsef is a good person. Otherwise, I'm totally
Well,
agree.
okay. I'm assuming she's not a terrorist. I'm going to give her that. I haven't seen any evidence that she's a terrorist, and
No,
or
I
other
don't.
than
I'm not saying she's a terrorist. I just don't think that she's a good person or a solid choice for an electorate. But in any case,
and that's and I'm fine with you being on the tribunal to make that judgment. That's cool, but yeah, have some due process.
yeah,
I agree
absolutely.
with
And
that.
I wouldn't be on the tribunal, but I would totally be the guy in the back of the helicopter doing the kicking.
Oh, here we go again with the
Yeah,
helicopters.
I'm telling you, kicking people out of helicopters is a solid way of dealing with that sort of nonsense. Doesn't really
As long
matter. I'm
as
cutting
there's
all
due
of this out
process,
anyway.
right?
As long as there's due process. That's right. We took a vote, and we all voted that we're kicking you out of the helicopter, and we all voted that I get to do the kicking.
Horrible.
Yeah, pretty much. But what would Pinochet say?
Yes, exactly. It's not as bad
All
as
right.
has been done in the past.
So the next
All
one
right, we're
comes
going to
from
jump
the
on UFC.
U of T, the National Post. U of T professor attacks political correctness, says he refuses to use genderless pronouns, and the leftist's head explodes. I think this is amazing. I like this Jordan Peterson guy. I watched his lecture. I mean, I'm not very happy with the National Post because their article starts off saying like this guy's a middle-aged 50-year-old, like a middle-aged white man. He shouldn't have an opinion about this because he doesn't understand the struggles of people that are not middle-aged white men.
Yeah.
So National Post going right out with the bias at the beginning of the article to let us know where they stand. But hey, don't worry, the guy that wrote it also a middle-aged white man. So
Well, yeah, it's like you know, Caucasians of North American descent advocating for immigrants from a country that they don't know, and saying how that they're going to be traumatized by air shows and stuff like that.
oh, I really don't like that air show thing. That bothers me on a very personal level. But in any
Well,
event,
yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. I wanted to ruin your day just a little bit.
my day has been ruined. You can see that by my lack of panelists.
Yeah, I think that's my fault.
More than likely. So I really like the way this particular professor was basically has an ideology that he's standing by, and he's calling nonsense on the whole Ontario Human Rights Commission.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I think I would probably also. refuse to use genderless pronouns, I probably wouldn't make a big deal about it. I would just be, and I can get away with it. I'm a middle-aged white guy, so I can just be ignorant and keep calling people who I see as male he and people I visually see as female as she, and
Well, okay, so
do
that's
that.
something that the Ontario Human Rights Commission through Bill C-16, that's something that bothers me, because it's the way that they define gender is how a person has outward behavior and appearances such as dress, hair, makeup, body language, and voice, as well as the name that they choose to go by and the pronouns they choose to use. It's the current year and we live in a gender fluid society. How am I supposed to know what they feel like being today? They're wearing pants. Men wear pants historically. Pants is a men's garment. And up until 100 odd years ago, it was a chargeable offense for women to wear pants. So
I have a solution.
We should call all.
I have a solution. If you call somebody by a gender pronoun and they object to it, you have the right to object because they didn't clearly identify their preference. They should have a sign that says, today I'm a they, or today I'm a she, or today I'm a what. I mean, how are you supposed to know?
Especially when you get into this problem with the whole non-binary pronoun and the fact that gender is now considered to be a spectrum. So you could be a he or a she or both or neither or some variation thereof. I'm not going to go to the effort to learn. If you look like a woman, I'm going to use female pronouns. If you look like a man, I'm going to use male pronouns. If I'm wrong, I expect you to, in some way politely inform me that I'm mistaken, and I will do my best to accommodate your particular preferences. If you come up to me and you act like a dickbag about it, I will treat you like a dickbag, though.
Yes, no, I agree. I mean, we could resort to just calling people "Hey, you," and people we don't like, we could call them "Hey, something head." But that's probably not going to work either.
I like that this guy is taking his stance that the university should challenge these people, and it's not his job to decide what gender they're trying to represent themselves as that day.
I totally agree.
It's not his job as an educator at a university, and universities shouldn't be safe spaces for these petulant children. They need to learn how to be adults and function in society. And crying that they don't like how they're being, like what gender pronoun is being used to describe them, that is not a valid issue to debate in a university. If you want to learn how to do physics, cool. But if you want to debate about whether or not you're a he, a she, a both, or a neither today, that's the a university should have exactly no time for that.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, and I think you're going to find, most of them don't.
Well,
I think the good ones don't.
Well, interesting that you say the good ones, because there is actually a physics professor at U of T that claims that they need to invalidate faulty claims by counterexample, and that they are the counterexample because they are a non-binary, transgendered person.
Okay.
So apparently, because they identify as being a transgendered person, that somehow invalidates Peterson's claim. I don't really. There's a non sequitur in there that I don't understand from this Amanda Pete person. I was going to say woman because she presents to me to be a woman, but I could be entirely mistaken, being that she's a non-binary transgendered person.
Yeah. Okay. So what was her name? Her first name was Amanda?
Yes, Amanda W. Pete.
Okay. Well, then probably just, now that you know that, just say, "Hey, Amanda," and don't get into the gender biased pronouns.
Oh no, you have to read her website, and she has a whole multi-page article explaining her.
No, I do not. No, no.
It's amazing. It makes for riveting reading.
No.
Because I had to look up the person because I'm like, okay, they're being quoted in this article. I have to see what their deal is. Yeah, no, they're nuts. Their deal is they're nuts.
Yeah. Well,
They're
there are
like,
people like that.
I went to Toronto, and Toronto's inclusive of the LGBTQ XYZ group, whatever their current acronym of the day is for the
Yes.
gay and lesbian, etc. community, because they can't seem to stop adding letters to that. And to be perfectly clear, I don't have a problem if that's what they want to do. I have a problem with the whole gender is fluid thing. It's not my job to decide how I'm supposed to pronoun you. Then that's what you are to me. If I'm wrong, politely correct me, and I will do my best to accommodate your desires.
I'm curious. Is their gender fluid enough that they can get themselves pregnant and reproduce on their own?
Well, you see, gender, according to the Ontario Human Rights Commission, is different than sex.
Oh, I clearly haven't read enough about this.
Yes. Oh no, I am well versed on this topic, as we have regularly discussed Premier Wynn's current sex ed program in Ontario. There are, if I listen to your show, 7 genders. I believe there are 7.
And I haven't figured out what they
are. Male, female, trans, bi, two-spirited, and I'm missing 2. But that's not bad for how much I've had to drink today.
You know what? I haven't had enough to drink to care.
That's entirely reasonable. I don't care about this terror suspect thing. I put it in because somebody put it in the page, and I thought we were going to have panelists talk about it. Some guy took a picture with Justin Trudeau. The end.
I think it's kind of funny, but whatever.
Okay, well, then let's put it in if you think it's funny. So, coming to us from The Star, I'm going to make that echo later. Canadian suspect with terror probes took selfie with Justin Trudeau. So, he's not been actually charged with anything, and the RCMP investigation hasn't revealed that he's actually been in Syria, although he may have been involved with Al-Nasriya, which is a group linked to Al-Qaeda, and he did travel to Turkey, but they don't know if he actually went to Syria between 2012 2013. So they're not sure if he's actually part of ISIS or not. But he was able to take a selfie with the PM because apparently nobody told the PM's personal security detail that, hey, that guy might be a terrorist.
Well, if he's just on a watch list, it's not like he's being detained, or it's not like he has a star sewn on the sleeve of his jacket to say, hey, I'm a terror suspect. And if I was a terror suspect, I think it would be great to make the nation that I'm fighting against look stupid by taking a selfie with their very vain and vacuous prime minister.
Sorry, not to interrupt. The YouTube comments from Then Victory, she found the 2 genders that I missed in Ontario. Transsexual and transgendered. Those were the 2 that I was missing.
Didn't we already say that? I don't understand the distinction between all of them. Never mind. Again, I'm not drunk enough to care.
I will forward you reading material from our lovely premier.
Oh, fine, and I will delete it.
Fair enough. I don't know. I kind of think this is a non-story because, okay, so he was being investigated and they couldn't find anything to charge him with like 3 years ago. At the same time, they're still watching him now, and the Star's having a fit that somebody that could be a terrorist got close enough to the PM to take a selfie. The implication being that if he got that close, he could have been close enough to, harm the PM.
Yeah, that's true. And from a personal security standpoint, the PM probably shouldn't be taking selfies with everybody who asks. However, that's just kind of how he is, and I don't think it's necessarily bad that he's not scared of the common citizen.
Well, no, because it's good for publicity.
Well, yeah. Now, the fact that Justin had his shirt on for the selfie is notable in and of itself.
Well, I believe this was in Ottawa, and Parliament is back in session, so they have a dress code to adhere to.
Again, my comment is valid.
I'm not discounting that. According to Pat Groy on the YouTube, it's worthwhile to check out the latest Rebel report by Laura Southern. I take it that's somehow related to Prime Minister Selfie and the terror suspect. All right. Let's skip giving money to Iraq because I know Marty wants to talk about that, so we'll leave it in for him because he has all of the details. So
I would like to skip giving money to Iraq. Yes, period. End of story. Let's skip doing that. It's not.
We're only at this will only make it $2 billion that we've given them. I mean, but this time the $200 million is a loan. So the other $1.8 billion that we've given them, I mean, that wasn't all a loan.
Yes. Anyway.
All right. It's time for the Philpott Report. So every week we have a segment that we've named in honor of our health minister, Jane Philpott, where we find new and exciting ways for the government to waste my money.
Yes.
This particular week, I am going to bring up, we have many articles that are linked from Global News, The National Post, CTV News, and another one from Global News with a video. That's for our crayon-eating members of the audience. The Trudeau government has spent over $1.1 million relocating staff to Ottawa. The Prime Minister's office spent $220,000 of that relocating staff to Ottawa. $120,000 of that was for one person.
Yes. Special.
Oh, so very special. Apparently, the Liberal government feels that this is in line with the 2008 budgetary process for moving expenses. I would like to know how they justify $120,000 in moving expenses, because apparently they're writing off parts of their houses and legal fees for buying new houses in Ottawa. I don't believe that that's how the legislation was written for how they get to claim moving expenses.
No, it's crazy. Wasn't there a rather rotund senator from PEI who got in trouble for a smaller figure and drug through the courts and discussed for years on end?
You talking about Duffy?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. But it's different. He was a conservative. He was totally at fault.
Oh,
he was wrong. That was
That
public funds, and he has a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers not to waste that money.
Yeah, but the PMO doesn't. Right, I forgot. Right, there's a difference.
Shiny Pony does not have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers. Conservative MPs have a fiduciary responsibility to taxpayers. That's how that works.
I normally don't read the comments, and I still stand by the policy of don't reading the comments, but there was somebody on the Facebooks who said, well, it works out to like 7 cents per Canadian to move somebody into a not very good and temporary job.
Okay, but...
Sorry, but that's not a justification for wasting that much money.
Exactly. No one's forcing them to do that job. And I see this, I have read this in several articles, that these people are serving Canadians and being part of the government. They were not elected. They've been hired to do a job in an office. I've worked in Ottawa. There are lots of people in Ottawa to fill jobs. There are lots of administrative people in Ottawa to fill jobs. I don't need to move. If you want to move your staff, that's fine. And within the bounds of the established expenses system that our government is beholden to, if you want to move your staff from Iqaluit to Ottawa, go nuts. But I don't want to pay $120,000 so that you can have your legal fees for your house sale paid for.
Yeah, I can't even begin to grasp the magnitude of the costs associated with this, these moves, so quote unquote, being in any way justified. The only thing I can think of is that there's just big cash bonuses involved in this to these people, basically signing bonuses for, and that's my assumption. I got no evidence that that's the case, but that's what comes to mind.
That's how I look at this, and I don't know how many people moved to Ottawa to be part of the Liberal government. I have not seen a published number for that, but for these expense reports, the top 10 people have expensed more than $50,000. The one of them, a staffer at the PMO's office, was $120,000. So out of the $1.1 million, that's just 10 of them. Perfect.
Yeah.
I imagine it was more than 10 people that moved to Ottawa. So there is a select group within the Liberal government that feels entitled to my taxpayer dollars to ease the burdens of them having to move to Ottawa so that they can be employed.
Yeah.
They
So,
have no use for these people. Helicopter
just
rides
just
for everyone.
just to be devil's advocate, so there's certain members of the PMO office that are more equal than other members of the PMO's office. So,
Yes, very
in
much
a
so.
in a sense, they're eating their own. They're messing over their own team players, so to speak, by favoring some over others.
No, I don't think I see the point you're making, and I don't
No,
think
no,
that's the
I'm trying to
case.
set up an internal war in the PMO's office here. I want them to be bickering amongst themselves. Why did you get such a big bag of cash and I didn't?
But they're liberals. The fact that they all got bags of cash is what they're happy about. They're not measuring who got
Yeah.
the bigger bag of cash. They're just all trying to get a bag of cash.
Oh, I see. So they're sort of team players in that way.
But yes, because as a team, they managed to screw the Canadian taxpayer out of $1 million+ dollars.
Yes, wonderful. Fantastic.
Yeah, helicopter rides for everyone. All right, I've also got a new segment. This is only the police and military should have guns. Bonus points for anybody who knows who said that.
Who, me?
No, not you
I'm way old
necessarily.
enough. Okay, well, I mean, I don't want to give it away for the listeners, for the watchers.
Both. We have both.
Alan Rock.
Might have been Alan Rock. Might have been former
Might
Liberal
have been.
Justice Minister. So I've got
Yes.
3 stories this week, and I'm not, to be clear, because we've discussed this before, and I've gotten feedback about it, and we have a cop that is a regular panelist. Well, an occasional panelist. Craig comes on when he can come on, when his wife will let him, and when he's not working being a police officer. I don't have an issue with individual police officers. I have an issue with the management and the institution of policing. Just so we're clear about that.
Yes.
So these are the people that are qualified to have guns, because I'm not allowed to carry because I'm a threat to the society. So first one is from CBC News. St. John's police officer injured in firing range accident. This is from September 26th, last week. So an officer with St. John Police Force is in hospital after an accident at New Brunswick firing range. According to WorkSafe New Brunswick, the officer's injuries was a result of an accidental discharge during a training exercise. Kennebec, CS Valley Regional Police, and WorkSafe New Brunswick are investigating. I look forward to hearing the outcome from this, although I'm sure it will be buried and we won't hear the outcome. I would very much suspect this is in fact a negligent and not an accidental discharge. The difference being is the gun is not malfunctioning. Somebody had his booger hook on the bang switch when he shouldn't have.
Yes, it's completely possible. And I think if you find the speculation, it's possible the St. John's police will be getting new handguns as a result of this, because it may be determined that it was the gun at fault.
Well,
Possibly.
naturally, it will be the gun's fault for firing, because we all know that guns kill people, and if left alone, they will breed incessantly and kill babies. No,
I was hoping that
that's not how that
my
works.
guns would multiply. That I leave them locked up in the dark where they're alone, and they don't. It's kind of disappointing.
You have to leave them alone in the light and feed them after midnight. No, that's
not.
It's feed them after midnight and get them wet. That's how they multiply.
Interesting. Okay. I may or may no. I would never try that. I would never feed my firearms in my house, because that would be illegal. Because it's not a place that's authorized for discharge of firearms. Yeah, that's it.
That must be it. I very much suspect that this officer was doing something dumb and lacked situational awareness with his firearm.
It's a plausible theory.
I'm glad that he is not suffering from life-threatening injuries, because getting shot in any variety sucks and is not something I wish upon the average person. I reserve that for a select group of people that I despise. And
or people whose actions warrant it. Yes.
Yeah, same thing. Select group of people of which I despise. So I hope that this officer recovers, and I hope that he receives the firearms training that he so desperately is in need of.
Yes. Yeah.
We also have a Guelph cop accidentally fires gun during a foot chase, which is a slightly misleading title from the CBC. I'm sorry, this is from CTV. This is from September 23rd, also last week. Oh, actually, you know what? That's almost 2 weeks ago now. So, a police firearm was discharged in Guelph during a foot chase. Police say the gun went off as the officer was attempting to put it back in their holster. So, they're also implying this was an accident. They don't actually say accident or negligent one way or the other, but putting a gun back in the holster and it going off, in my opinion, is very likely to be classed as a negligent discharge. Because, again,
I think it's safe to say it was accidentally negligent. They weren't negligent on purpose. How's that?
They weren't negligent on purpose. Applying this to another piece of police equipment. If you're driving down the road and, I don't know, playing with your cell phone and run over a bus full of orphans, is it an accident or is it negligence?
It was accidentally negligent. The officer didn't mean to do it.
He didn't mean to run them over. He just negligently ran them over.
Okay.
So I also especially like the comments, and as someone who has spent a significant amount of time in Guelph, the people in Guelph freaking scare me to begin with, but the comments that they have for quotes in the article, hilarious.
Oh my.
So there's I heard people just running and screaming back there, and then all of a sudden a huge bang. I never want to have to hear a gunshot again.
Oh my God.
How do you accidentally shoot a gun? There's a safety protocol for them, right? The normies in Guelph scare me.
Wow. That's awful.
That this is the caliber of people that get interviewed for articles in the news. And then CTV goes out of their way to point out the 13 weeks of firearms training that officers receive, which I think is not an entirely accurate number.
Yes. Yeah. I think they have training over 13 weeks.
Yes. Based on my discussions with law enforcement officers, I would say that they have not generally received 13 weeks of firearms training over the course of most of their careers.
Yeah, I know.
So I think that the 13-week training program where they have a few days on firearms is not... and I've had this position before on the show. Police don't get enough firearms training, but police also are not gunfighters. It's one thing that they deal with for a very minuscule portion of most of their jobs. The average police officer in Canada doesn't ever have to actually shoot anybody, which is a good thing. They shouldn't have to do that.
Yes.
But when they have to do that, I want them to be able to do it effectively.
Yes. Yep. Because the ramifications of doing it poorly are fairly significant.
Well, okay, so this guy was reholstering, for example. For people that don't know this, holsters are pretty close to your body, usually one of your legs. There's important things in your legs that are full of blood. The blood is supposed to stay on the inside.
Yes.
He was lucky in that he didn't shoot himself and bleed out and die. Or shoot his foot and cause himself a permanent dismemberment or disfigurement and not be able to walk right for the rest of his life.
Yeah. Or shoot himself in an artery in the foot and
bleed out and die. That's
permanently disable himself for a short period of time while he dies. Yeah, I mean, it's all kinds of bad things can happen.
Since he was working with a partner, shooting his partner, or since they were in the process of arresting someone, shooting the person they were trying to put on the ground to cuff. Like, there's the way that this went. Yeah, exactly. The way that this went is the best possible way that it could have gone. Nobody got hurt. But also, I'm very confident that this should be classed as a negligent discharge because he was not doing something with his handgun at the right time. Either his finger or another piece of clothing or equipment got between the trigger and his holster, and the gun was fired.
Yeah, no, exactly. You and I have both managed to holster firearms, whether they were loaded or not loaded in a ready condition and did not have the mechanism of the gun cycle to the point that it would discharge a cartridge. So that would be the non-negligent way of doing that.
I would say that I have been a range officer for somewhere on the order of about 4,000 people so far in my shooting career, and I have yet to see anybody actually negligently discharge a handgun into themselves while holstering. I have been present for other things happening, and I have yet to be present for an accidental discharge, although I have been present for more than one negligent. And the negligent ones, in my experience, and this is entirely anecdotal, have always been people that are not paying attention to what they're doing and either have their booger hook or some other piece of equipment on the bang switch when they shouldn't.
Yep.
We also have a story from the Ottawa Citizen. The OPP takes weeks to investigate a gun stolen from the open trunk of an officer's car. Because if I allow unauthorized access to my firearms, they'll be confiscated and I get thrown in jail. But apparently if the OPP does it,
Strangely enough, it appears in this case that the person who stole the gun, who actually committed the act of theft, is in fact the bad person.
Well, yes, the committing the act of theft obviously is an issue, and stealing an OPP-issued SIG, and, the Ottawa Citizen is going to echo for this. 3 clips of ammunition.
Yes.
Seriously? Like, you guys don't have a fact checker? You couldn't write magazines? You didn't have enough words left? Or, like, what?
You know what? I'm past the point of the clip magazine thing. It's, yeah.
I understand. I understand your position. But if you're going to be a journalist, I would appreciate it if you could do a modicum of research, or someone in your organization could at least make sure you have technical details correct.
No, but that would take effort. That's not what they're about.
I am dismayed by the OPP taking 17 days to act on this information. The firearm was illegally obtained from the open trunk of one of their vehicles.
Yes. As I'm going from memory here, there was a tip given, and the OPP did nothing about it until the, I believe, detective reported after 17 days that their firearm was, in fact, no longer in the care and control of themselves. Is that correct?
I believe it took him 17 days to report
Yes.
that it was stolen. I don't believe that he actually... I believe he knew that it was missing sooner than the 17 days. Like, I don't think that he was like,
exactly. Yeah,
crap, my gun is gone. I better tell somebody. I think he was like, oh, crap. I'll tell them tomorrow. And then that took 17 days to get around to it.
Yeah, I know. And the story got stranger from there. The
fact that the guy doing the thieving threw it in, like, dumped a box of stuff in the river.
Yes, except for the gun, which he then took home and took the serial number off and put in his father's gun cabinet or safe, or
as
whatever.
One does. I mean, that's what every... How else does a responsible criminal store their illicitly obtained firearm if not in their locked cabinet?
Yeah, exactly. And then when, due to the tip, the police were able to identify the location of said gun and went to investigate, and the father of the perpetrator said, I did it, it was me, take me away, basically, as I recall.
That is how that's written, and it's come out in court that the father actually was just trying to cover, but...
Yep. Now, the interesting thing of the interesting part of the whole thing was what the judge said about these people being in possession of a stolen firearm, and his statement was that merely being in the possession of a firearm does not pose a threat to the public.
That's
which
a very
seems to be what
point. And I would like to...
we've all been saying for a while.
I really hope that this case establishes precedent that we can use that in the future as law-abiding firearms owners, that our simple possession of property does not constitute a public safety risk.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious as to the age and ethnicity of the judge, because that may invalidate his opinion.
It's entirely possible. See what comes out when they finish their trial, I guess.
Yeah, I thought the trial was over.
Oh, is it? Have they actually published the judges?
I think that's where, yeah, because the guy got off with possession of the stolen firearm. Because the judge said it doesn't necessarily. Yeah, I think.
Precedent. Let's use it. Okay, Brian. So you just need to get arrested with firearms so that you can take that to court.
Thanks. No, I'm good with not.
I'm just telling you, as soon as you get pulled over and have guns pointed at your face, you'll be able to join the Cool Kids Club.
You know, I'm feeling like I'm pretty cool, and that's never happened to me. I have little interest in interacting with police in their professional capacity.
That's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into rapid fire feedback. I'm going to make you read some emails if you think you can string that many words together.
It's completely possible as long as I can actually see them with my weak-ass computer. All right, here we go.
We'll start with the one from my wife. She apologizes to the listeners for last week where she set off all of the smoke detectors.
I think it was funny as heck.
The pork chops, I enjoyed them thoroughly.
Oh, there you go. All right. You want me to read the next one here?
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Is that all one email?
There's two. The second one is the paragraph at the end.
Oh, man. I don't know if I can handle all that. That's a lot. All right, well, I'm going to fumble through it. You asked me to do it. Here we go. From Harrison. Hi, Andrew. Glad your house didn't burn down. As always, another interesting episode this week. Although, given the number of the show, I was expecting a bit more about God's own caliber. What was the episode number last week?
Last week was episode 45.
Yeah, weak sauce for not bringing that up. Kudos as well on remaining Canadian about the costs of UN peacekeeping. Yeah, you did have a good discussion about that. I enjoyed that. I do want to make two observations though, because some of the information about OPEC and NAFTA's effect on domestic oil prices wasn't accurate, as was the comment regarding the UN and military spending. A 2% defense target spending target is a NATO suggestion, not a mandate. Whatever. Now, on to oil. While it is true that NAFTA affects the domestic price of oil, it does so only by requiring us to sell to the U.S. and Mexico at our domestic price. NAFTA does not commit Canada to exporting a specific share of our oil to the United States or Mexico, and Canadian producers generally sell without restriction on an open global market. Okay. It is legally and in theory technically possible for Canadian consumers to buy our entire domestic production, but that would be an economic suicide for any non-energy producing province. Such a move would dramatically increase fuel prices because Alberta and Saskatchewan oil is, on the whole, more expensive to produce, refine, and in the absence of pipelines, transport than light crude from the Middle East and Africa. We aren't buying OPEC oil because of a treaty. We aren't even members of OPEC. We are buying OPEC oil because, at least for now, it's cheaper and cleaner than our home brew. I like the term home brew. As an aside, if we commit to buying oil at $100 or higher from Alberta and our competitors keep paying the lower global price, our economic competitiveness would suffer. Moreover, it would have the same inflationary effects that you and the rest of the panel correctly attributed to an increased minimum wage, so beloved of the NDP and other leftist groups. Increasing pipeline capacity would help lower domestic costs, but not enough to make increasing the share of domestic oil consumed in Ontario and Quebec more than a few percentage points larger. And that only holds true if production and transportation costs in the Middle East don't fall, which they have been doing year on year for 2 decades now. OPEC's main effect on the price of oil comes from its availability to limit supply of cheap oil via production quotas. The environmental standards are a bit of a red herring vis-a-vis Alberta. Actually caring about the environment aside, the main reason we have higher standards is that it takes much more energy, chemicals, and most importantly water to produce and refine Alberta oil versus OPEC oil. Human rights, democratic participation, and labor laws are a different story and legitimate reasons to not trade with the Saudis. But that doesn't change the fact that extracting their oil produces fewer greenhouse and heavy metal emissions than our bitumen field. Keep up the good work, Harrison.
That was almost well done, Brian. Thank you for reading that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Sorry, Harrison. Glad that Harrison wrote in to point out some of those details. I don't know that we expressly said that we were members of OPEC, and if we were, I apologize because that is obviously inaccurate. I think we were talking about trading with OPEC-based countries, and that if the price of oil would reach a reasonable dollar figure again, instead of being unreasonably low that it is right now, the production in Alberta would make more sense. And being that we are the energy-based economy that we are, I would prefer that we could use Canadian products. But
yeah, but as you both pointed out, though, last week the price of gasoline has not plummeted along with the price of a barrel of oil, because I think collusion and increase in taxes that are put on our fuel. So if the price of oil goes back up, we'll start paying $1.50, $1.75 a liter here in the center of the universe that is Ontario.
Yeah, that's my concern. Oil will go back up and the price of gas will increase proportionately, but when it goes down, it doesn't.
Yep.
I would really much prefer that if we were going to pay that higher rate, that we could at least do it with Canadian oil instead of giving our monies to countries who have political ideologies that I fundamentally disagree with. Looking at you again, Saudi Arabia.
Yes. However, even if we cut off all the flow of oil from Saudi Arabia, they would happily just ship it to China, where China would be happy to consume it.
And China would be happy to buy it because it's cheap and they could get it in bulk. And that would be, like I said, if the worldwide oil price went up and it was feasible to produce oil in Canada again, I would much rather we used Canadian oil than from other countries.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not economically feasible at the moment, and I understand that. I accept that. It's
a shame because Canadian oil has that warm maple syrupy smell as it comes out of your exhaust.
That's what that is.
Yeah, there you
go. We've also got an email from Sharp97. This was sent to CPP, New Shooter Canada, and Slamfire Radio, and he asked to pass on the message to Modern Rifleman Radio. His email is, just want to wish you guys a happy, healthy, and sweet new year and many more podcasts. If you guys could pass this on to Modern Rifleman Radio, because I don't have their email address, and I'm running around like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to get ready before the holiday. So hope you guys have a great year and lots more shooting together. So I want to thank Sharp97. Having met him, he is a solid dude. I don't know what Happy New Year is in Yiddish, but I wish you one of those. And being that 50% of Modern Rifleman Radio is here, I think they got the message.
We did, and you can email us at modernriflemanradio@gmail.com or Brian with a Y at modernriflemanradio.com, Benny. So go ahead and send that off to us. Is that enough of a plug for the show that is missing now?
I feel bad. I haven't listened to anything about my modern rifle recently. Before we do the iTunes feedback, I have some YouTubes I want to read. So from Pat Groy, government equals fiscal mismanagement. If the government was a business, it would have gone bankrupt a long time ago. And I think we've discussed that at length and agree. Because if it weren't the government, who else would loan them that much money? No private business would ever get it.
Well, no, and the reason they can get a loan is that they have the ability to suck money out of the populace through taxation.
Yeah.
So they're a good risk.
Absolutely. We also have a question. Are your objections to these benefits for political staffers only because military members, RCMP, and public servants get the same benefit for relocations? Yes and no. My opinion, particular members of the Liberal government, these staffers that are claiming in excess of $50,000 in moving expenses that would not fly in your chain of command in any unit that I am aware of in the Canadian military. Any of my friends or my personal experience with being involved in the Canadian military, you don't get to claim $120,000 moving expense. Your chain of command will shoot that shit down.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with somebody accepting a job for a public agency and having to relocate and being paid their expenses to do that. Legitimate expenses, not ridiculously inflated, bordering on bribery expenses.
Yeah, I'd like to see a breakdown from the guy that spent $120,000 in moving expenses and see like the itemized budget report, because having been in a position in the Canadian military, I understand how members get paid to move. I've signed the checks to get them reimbursed for that. I would like to see the itemized report to see how it added up to $120,000 for somebody in the PMO, because I don't think that would fly. And yes, the RCMP follows the same thing, and I believe that their system, what we're paying our public service people should be equal across the board. And we've had this discussion before. If we're going to give people special treatment, the politicians ought to get the same as the military, because the military would either make a lot more money real fast, or the politicians would actually be there to be politicians and not get a paycheck. So take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think maybe these people who are racking up these expenses should be introduced to the concept of price comparison. You know, maybe taking the most expensive moving contractor is not the best way to go. Just a thought.
All right. I'm going to read the iTunes review that we got. First, I'm going to plug that, because if you want to get in touch with this show, you can do that at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback, or by emailing the show at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. I love your hate mail, and it fuels me. If I've made you angry, I've succeeded. Coming to us from 10 Gunner. I'm not broken, 5 stars. Good show, although Andrew says I'm broken and I'm not. I'll take your AR and oust it with my Swiss. I think you're broken because you sound like a broken record blabbing on about how you think the AR platform is the end all to everything. Also, slow down. You talk too fast. This is my hate mail that you so lovingly deserve. Take care and keep up the left-wing bashing, Mr. Uzi. I hope I slowed down sufficiently for you at the end there so that you were able to keep up with what I was saying. I have no problem with the Swiss rifle, by the way. I think it's a fantastic rifle, and if you're going to spend $4,000, it better be a fantastic rifle, because I feel the same way about an AR. If you're going to buy a $4,000 AR, it better be a fantastic rifle. We've discussed at length my opinion on the AR-15. There's nothing wrong with the Swiss arm, so I do like that short stroke gas piston. Brian, where's the best place for people to find you on the internet?
Well, I'm around on the Facebooks under my own identity, and you can send messages through to Modern Rifleman Radio. We are still responding to messages, at least, even though we're not producing content at the time, or we haven't been for quite some time, but we are on hiatus just due to the fact we're busy, or hey, it's free. You get what you pay for, or you don't get what you pay for. That's how podcasting works. It's a hobby. It's not a life sentence. So,
as always, my name is Andrew. You can find all my work on everydaytactical.com or on Instagram and Twitter at EDTactical. Brian, do you want to take us out?
Oh, I suppose I should. And remember, you are the true north, strong and free.